Now, hopefully, you know a little bit more about me. We can jump to the course synopsis or the syllabus or the roadmap of the course so that you know what are you in for. As you can see on the slide, the course roadmap consists out of 7 sections. Let's go through them a little bit. The first one is section 1, course details, and currently you are located here because this is the section in which you will understand who is talking, where, when, and what is going to be said here. Just as in any of my trainings, I like to go from the basics. That's why the second section is titled Cybersecurity Fundamentals. And as its name suggests, this is where we will talk about the basics of all cybersecurity. We will learn the fundamental security concepts, like the CIA triad, and the terminology that goes with it. Also, we will talk about different cyber threats, attacks, standards, and frameworks. Then in the third section, we will dive into cyber warfare. Section Introduction to Cyber Warfare will help you learn about the types of adversaries, what kind of threats there are, and what kind of cyber weapons are being used for these cyber attacks. And we will also talk about the practical side of cyber warfare on the identification of actors that conduct the attack. The fourth section is dedicated to one of my personal favorite sections of the digital world. That is the critical infrastructure. All the infrastructure that supports life as we know it in a way. This is the place where you will get familiarized with operational technology, about distributed control systems, industrial control systems, and SCADA systems. I won't tell you the last acronym on purpose. And lastly, we will talk about open source intelligence and how it is being used against critical infrastructure. Then the fifth section is dedicated to cyber attack examples. First, we will talk about the cyber attack concept with its phases as an integral part of any attack, and after that we will go through more than a few examples that have been conducted in the real world and the recent history. From ransomware and sophisticated malware to influential campaigns and influences on elections. And as a disclaimer for this part, we will talk about facts that are sourced from publicly well-known sources on the internet, like Wikipedia and news sites. The sixth section is dedicated to the good guys, to defense concerning cyber warfare. We'll talk about the most important elements of a good cyber warfare culture and actions that need to be taken. This consists of cyber awareness, detection of malware and spear phishing, open source threat hunting, and the analysis of threats. And the last section, section 7, this one is titled Conclusion, where I will share my final thoughts on the subject of cyber warfare, and we will do a course summary so you can better manage everything we have gone over throughout this course. Now let's move on to prerequisites. Okay, now, prerequisites for this course. I cannot go on and on about how you should have basic IT knowledge. Maybe something about military concepts, experience in research, and so forth. But the biggest truth that I find is that you should have 2 things: willingness to learn and time. If you do not have these 2 elements, then the whole effort is futile, or in the best case, results are not on a satisfactory level. And now, just to touch on the target audience, I find people in these types of roles will benefit most from this type of course, but then again, this should be taken with a looser understanding. First, people wanting to grow their IT security and cybersecurity knowledge. This is definitely the first one because everything after that is a consequence. When you learn and know, you are able to change jobs, start a whole new career, or advance in the existing one, and so forth. Second are related to the first bullet. Those are cybersecurity students. When I say student here, I don't necessarily mean individuals that go to a university. Basically, anyone who learns is a student. That's why I like the old saying, you live, you learn. Then, military personnel and law enforcement. These 2 groups already have a lot of prerequisites, but usually they lack the cybersecurity knowledge which is essential to understand cyber warfare. Then any decision makers, senior leaders, working closely with critical infrastructure, not just using critical infrastructure. Because as you are watching this course, you are a user of a lot of services that fall into category of critical infrastructure. Then enterprise security teams. Here I mean on larger teams that need to be well versed in different areas of cybersecurity. Here I will also mention security solutions sales teams. Maybe you find them not well suited for this list, but believe me, the ones that are selling different security products that you will use for the defense from any kind of cyber attack are needed to know this content. Actually, I would say it would be mandatory for them. And lastly, I have mentioned here the open source intelligence professionals, investigators, and different analysts that use all the techniques and resources to preserve the well-being of our critical services. Actually, the list isn't finite, and I will repeat myself once again. I find these types of roles will have the most use out of this course. Just please allow me one more thing to share before we continue with the course. Is this face familiar to anyone? What do you think? This is the very great Mr. Albert Einstein. I learned a very nice thing from a quote this gentleman said. It goes, "I do not know what weapons World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." You know that World War II was really the last that big of a war in human history, and hopefully it will stay like that. What the quote is saying is that because of all the technological advancement, the next World War, that is number 3 in this case, will probably be so devastating that it will probably erase the human race, or at least it will send the human race back to the Stone Age. And if World War IV would come, then it would be definitely fought with sticks and stones. This is certainly something to ponder over, and I'm glad that you are here so we can be better at all the technology that surrounds us. And now, after my welcome and the course overview, and without any further ado, the only thing I want to say to you is buckle up and see you in the next video where we will dive in cyber warfare in more detail.